This is Dish and Dirt with Gary Pickren, South Carolina's only podcast dedicated to the real estate agent craft. And now, the host of Dish and Dirt, Gary
And greetings,
Pickren.
welcome back, everyone, to another episode of Dish and Dirt. I'm your often opinionated but rarely wrong host, Gary Pickren, coming to you from the beautiful downtown Columbia, South Carolina offices of Blair, Cato, Pickren, Castellan. This, the second week of November 2025. Today, I have a very fun and a very special guest that I'm very excited to have on Dish and Dirt. But before we get to Keon, we're going to talk first about a quick look at one of our Blair Cato locations. So far, we've already talked about Spartanburg and Malden. Today, I'm going to highlight our newest upstate location, which is our downtown Greenville office. I cannot say enough about this incredible location. It is in the Commons at Unity Park, and the developer did the most amazing job developing this old warehouse into a very modern, cool office space. The office is actually located above a food court. Hard to call it a food court because it's all high-end stuff. Come and visit, enjoy that area, and then come up and do a closing. One of the best things and best features we have at that office is we have restaurant buzzers. So while you're waiting on your funding number, instead of staying in our conference room, you can go downstairs and have a coffee or a beer or something to eat, and we'll restaurant page you when it's time to come up and get your check. One of the coolest features of any offices I've ever seen. The office is headed by Adam Bro, who does our real estate, and Kate Lefkowitz, who does our estate planning. You can send your orders to Adam at Blair Cato or new orders at Blair Cato as well. Now, let me introduce our guest and my very new friend, Keon Alrich. I've been so excited to become friends with her over the last year. Most of you already know her. If you don't know her, you need to get to know her, but I want to give you a little bit about her background and qualifications, which are literally mind-blowing how qualified she was to become this year's South Carolina Realtors Association president. Keon is the owner broker in charge of PD Elite Realty in Florence, South Carolina. She's been in real estate for over 20 years. She was the president of the board of realtors for the PD Realtor Association in 2018. She also served as the director on the board of realtors for over 9 years. She was on the multiple listing service board for 5 years. Her state level positions included the grievance committee member, professional standards committee member, Region 4 Realtor Political Action Committee trustee, Region 4 vice president. She was the South Carolina Realtor Association secretary and the treasurer. And now she is currently the president of the South Carolina Realtors Association. And that's why she's joining us today to talk about her tenure as the president, which unfortunately is coming to end at the end of this year. So let me welcome my good friend, Keon. Keon, thank you so much for joining us today.
No, Gary, thank you so much for having me. I have been looking forward to this. I think all year I've been more excited about doing this than you have.
But you must have had a very boring year, I guess. I don't know.
Look, I'm excited to do this.
You've been
You
doing
just don't
things.
know how excited I am.
Well, I don't know how you do it all. And you've been married for 20 years and you have 2 kids. You're raising a boy and a girl and you own a business and you're doing all this quote unquote volunteer work, because that's what it is. You're volunteering your service for the association. How do you ever find time to get it all done? I have no idea.
You know what? I am just very organized. I definitely pat myself and applaud myself for being so organized. I call it old school. I still have the paper calendar. One's on my desk. One's, I have the calendar book. I have the phone. So just making sure that everybody has access to my calendar. So sometimes I would forget to tell my family where I am. Or sometimes my daughter will call me and remind me, Mommy, you have so-and-so going on next week. She'll even say, because we have our NAR conference coming up next week. She's been looking forward to going with me. And she kept saying, Mommy, Nick hasn't put your conference on your calendar yet. So she's been watching it.
Well, and I'm going to give a shout out to your husband, who I don't know your husband, so he hasn't put me up to this. But to be married to somebody who is time is so demanded of them, give a shout out to your husband for jumping in and helping out in the family as well. Because, I know he knows, as well as we all know, the time that you've had to put in to being the president. And so no doubt you have a good partner there in your husband. But let's talk about your presidency, because the term is coming to an end. So how are you feeling as you look back over the past year? How do you feel about the presidency and your time that you've served?
Good about it. Our members have been amazing. We've done some great things. I'm a part of a leadership team. So this cannot be done by myself. There's no I in team, as we hear all the time. And when you become president of this great association, you definitely understand the meaning of that. It's not done in 1 year. It's not considered your year. It's a team effort. We'll get started the year that I'm president. We'll continue, and it may not get completed the year that I'm president, but it will be continued throughout until it is completed throughout the leadership team. So as the presidents keep coming in, we all work on the same goal to get it done. So it's been a great year. I can't find anything to complain about, really. I mean, my team has been amazing, and we just work so well together, and it shows. Our members see it. They love to see all of us get together. So our leadership team consists of the past president-elect, secretary, and treasurer. And I mean, we are always together. We are noticed as a team in South Carolina, which is good. It's everything starts at the head. So when you see the head getting along, it just flows down, and it flows down without a problem. But we are noticed throughout. Even other states notice us when we go to national conferences. They always say, y'all really like each other. So it makes us start looking at each other like, should we not? Or
We don't like each other. Should we be
yeah,
fighting?
is there something wrong with us, or is there something wrong with them? We don't know yet. So, but we like what we do. We enjoy being around each other. We actually get excited knowing that we're about to see each other, because you become a family after you do this for so long. So it's been great.
And of course, the leadership at SCR is fantastic with Nick and Byron and Lindsay and Austin and everybody over there. That certainly, I assume, would be a very valuable tool for any association to have such good leadership like that.
Oh yeah, we definitely have the best CEO. And we always pat our staff on the back, because I say we have the best staff in the nation. And if anybody wants to put their staff up against ours, hey, we ready. We ready to rumble. But we have a great staff. We just have a great association. They're always there to help us, especially me as president. Like you said, I'm very busy. So if I didn't have the staff at SCR, I don't know really what I would do. They do a lot of things for me that I could possibly do for myself, but I would
Mhm.
probably be lost if I didn't. I mean, if I didn't have them, or if I had to do
Right.
it.
Well, what inspired you to get involved in the Realtor Association? Because you remember, obviously, before you got into leadership, but what was it that got you into leadership first at the local level and now to the state level? And quite frankly, I think you're now poised for national level. So what is it that got you so inspired to do that?
Just wanting to have a seat at the table, wanting to see what was happening behind the scenes, I wanted to see. I was very, very, I really wanted to know, and was very questionable about how all these decisions are being made for me. I probably one of a few that cared. I really cared and wanted to see what was going on. So once it wasn't that I ran to it, because I tell people all the time, I was running from it because I did not get into business. When I passed my test, I didn't get in this business to volunteer other work. You're already volunteering when you showing houses and doing all of this, but I didn't get into business to do that. So I actually ran from it for a while until, it's one of those things where I had a great broker that I learned from. And I was kind of voluntold, that's that word that we hear a lot. I was kind of voluntold that, hey, you're going to be on the local board as just a director. And I'm like, okay, what is that? And I have a bad habit, Gary, of saying yes to things and then figuring out what I'm doing later.
Figure out what all that means. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. So I just said yes to it, and, just having that ask, and accepting that ask and saying yes. And I started doing it. And the more I did it, the more I enjoyed being in leadership. And before I knew it, I was the local president. And I enjoyed it. And I enjoyed it so much that I started talking to other people all the time about leadership roles. I probably talked about it so much that I got on a lot of people's nerves. But once they saw that I was doing it, and if Keon can do it, you can do it. And that's just how I feel, because, there's really nothing special about me that I see. Everybody else sees it, but there's really nothing special that I see about me that makes it that I can do it and somebody else can't. So once that leadership bug just bit me, I just kept going and kept moving forward. And, once I became local president, it was like, what else can I do? So then I reached out to Nick Kermitis, our CEO, and I said, I need you to help me with my path to leadership. What's my next? What's going to happen? And, it got to the point where the staff at SCR would call me and say, hey, can you do this? Can you do that? And I was like, did Nick put y'all up to this? And they'll say, yeah. I was like, well, don't ask me anymore. Just tell me, Keon, we need you to be here at this particular time, and this is what you're doing. Because I couldn't say no to what I asked for.
Well, there's a lot to be said about in the leadership role, being able to see what's going on in real estate and being able to shape. One thing I've enjoyed, it's one thing I enjoyed last I guess, week or so ago when I was in Florence in front of your group talking. It's enjoyable to stand up in front of agents and tell them what's going on in the marketplace and how we're trying to shape it and change things, because we have gone through a lot. as an association, as an industry over the last couple of years, particularly since Sister Burnett. So when you took office, what was your biggest goals? What were your biggest priorities that you wanted to see accomplished during your term?
So one of the main things was education. As an attorney, as a real estate attorney, I know sometimes you probably get contracts and you're looking at 'em like, what in the world? Who taught you this? So one of the biggest things was education. We wanted to make sure that after the lawsuit, we wanted to make sure as an association that we had the correct forms, and that would help our members be as successful as they needed to be. We try to make sure we stayed in front of the 8 ball, just to kind of make sure that we had everything done. We covered all of our bases. We call it the war room. We would go in the war room and just kind of fight it out and, do all the pros and cons that would help our members be better at what, what was coming down the pipeline. It's not that we had a crystal ball or anything, but as a state, we just kind of played all of our parts, just playing out different scenarios, what could happen, what would happen, what should happen, what can happen, different things to make sure that we covered every base to make sure that the members had everything that they needed. And I think we did a great job of that. We recently rolled out new forms this year. Like I said, we didn't have a crystal ball, so I can tell you I was praying that I didn't have a year like last year. And trust me, President Rhea did an amazing job. And I tell people that, you are built for times such as what you're in. And she was built for that time. Again, I would pray for it. But again, if it happened, we would have had to roll with the punches. We would have made it happen.
So for Rhea, a lot of her presidency was defined with the rolling out of Sister Burnett. And I think she told me when she became president, she didn't think she was going to spend every minute of every day traveling to organizations talking about what the settlement is. Was that still one of the biggest challenges you had, was not only the Sister Burnett, but how we were constantly changing what we were doing because of Sister Burnett? And then you started seeing maybe some of the complacency or maybe some of the unwillingness to change. Was that what you were dealing with mainly as a challenge, or were there other things?
Well, we definitely dealt with that. A lot of people, like you said, they are complacent. They've been doing it for many years. They know how they did it, and it worked for them. So they don't understand why they have to change. But yeah, a lot of it has been making sure that they understand. We rolled out the new Buyers Pro class, and that's a course that was written by our very own Diana Brothers to make sure that the South Carolina Realtors or our members know what it means when you're talking about compensation and things like that. I know you have a hard time saying X and Y, but we're not going to.
I want to say numbers, darn it.
No, you're not going to get me in trouble on this. No.
I won't do that to you today. I did on the podcast, but I recorded before you, but I won't do it today.
Definitely. But we want to make sure that the Buyers Pro class was rolled out so that our members were equipped with everything that they needed, the tools that they needed. We also, with this new buyer's agency form, we still have a lot of members that are confused. And I get the contracts, so I'm not saying anything that I don't know. I get the contracts, I get the forms, and and I actually said something to one yesterday. I said, I know you've been doing it as long as I have, and I'm not trying to tell you what to do. I'm just trying to educate you, because that's what my platform has been all year round, is leadership and mentoring our next, group of agents. And not even our next group of agents. We all need grace right now, because all of this is new for all of us. But some of us get it and some of us don't. And some of us are willing to change and some of us won't. So we just have to give each other grace and make sure that we get it right. And we will. We'll get it together. We actually have a great forums committee. Our chair, Matthew Thrift, is amazing. I appointed him this year, and he has been amazing with taking that and running with it and getting the forms out and approved at rapid speed. So we're doing a great job.
Is that what you think the biggest accomplishments of the year would be, was the new forms and the education on those forms? Is that what you're most proud of during your term?
Definitely. Those are two things that I'm most proud of. And our Leadership Academy. For years, we've had Leadership Academy. I actually went through it in 2017. And that's that 9-month course that we go through. We put our members through, and they learn about leadership, public speaking. They get to tour, they come see you guys at the Real Estate Commission.
I love that.
In the past few years, they've started going to DC, visiting our NAR building and meeting some of our NAR staff. So, a lot of times you don't know what's happening until you get involved. So a lot of them may not have even known about the Real Estate Commission or about the building in DC. So that's one of the main things. So when I did it in 2017, I'll be honest with you, it was like pulling teeth to get members to apply for. And I'm talking about, it's only 16 spots, Gary. But it was like pulling teeth to get people to apply. So then we stopped for a few years and revamped it. And since we've been doing it again, I think we started back right before COVID. I mean, the applications have been 40, 50 applications for 16 spots. So I think that's a true testament of our leadership that we've had in previous years. So it's been good. So to me, that's really good. And I will give a shout out and all other realtors that have taken or have been a part of that leadership class. They're gonna be mad at me. They probably gonna throw tomatoes at this screen when I say this, but I say this every time I get in front of a camera. The 2025 leadership class, they were amazing. And I will tell you, they support each other. I mean, they come to each other's events in different areas. And I'm talking about a group of 16 people that did not know each other prior to this class from all over the state of South Carolina, from our different associations. And they become one big happy family, brothers and sisters. I just went to an event where one of our leadership graduates got installed as president in Greenville. And there were probably about 10 of her leadership class members there from all across the state. I mean, they drove as far as from Charleston to come see her get installed. So to me, that course means a lot. So it's all about getting involved, making sure our members know the things that we offer them. But, the main thing is just getting involved. When you're asked to do something, just do it. Don't be me and do it and then go Google it later. But definitely know that
You gotta
that's something.
train you gotta train your next level of leadership or you're not gonna have effective leaders. Some people are just born natural leaders. I think you're born a natural leader. I really do believe that. Not everybody has it, or some people have it and they don't know it. And so these training academies are really good to help people recognize that they do have leadership qualities they don't even know they have. Secondly, training them so when they come into the position, they're ready to go. You were ready to go because you had been through that academy, as well as you had done so many other jobs that are related to that on the local level. And so the local level is our training ground to get the next state leaders and the next national leaders. So I think that leadership program that y'all have is fantastic. Was there a time during your presidency that you felt like something just wasn't going the way it should, that was testing you or testing what you all were trying to do? Or were there any regrets that you have looking back? I know you said earlier you don't think there's anything that you have to say negative, and that's great. Was it all, rainbows and unicorns, or was there challenges and times where you thought maybe this was just more than we agreed to?
Well, sometimes even before I got into the position, Gary, it was times when I was like, what did I sign up for? And I'm talking about maybe a month, but I'm talking about like this time last year. I was asking myself, what in the world did I sign up for? But I knew I was ready. Like you said, I've done enough throughout my years. I knew I was ready. So to say that there were a couple of things that disappointed me, just, the level of sometimes the disrespect that as realtors we get from the media, and even from some of the members of the public, where they talk about us like all we do is we want that money grabbing whatever. But this is our job. This is our profession.
Right.
So we're not here just for everybody wants a paycheck. The way I explain it is just a person going to a factory. You want your check every week or every 2 weeks. You're never going to go there and say, boss, I worked 40 hours this week, but you know what? Don't pay me out for my
Yeah.
all
Just
40
keep
hours.
some of
Just keep some of the money. You don't have to give it all to me. And they look at us like that's all we're all about. But when you truly love what you do, you're in it for the right reasons. We're in it to make sure people get homes. People that thought they could never get homes, get homes. The gratification for us is when we pass those keys across or slide those keys across the table and the smiles. I've had kids that call me Aunt Keon or call me a superhero. I mean, how can
That's
you
pretty
not
awesome.
love that? It's things like that just keep you going.
Oh, to the
But
tears.
again, it's just trying to change the way that some of the public sees us, or the negative sides of the things that the media grabs onto. They don't grab onto the positive things that we're doing. They always grab onto the negative. So just trying to reinvent that wheel and make it and spin it so that people will know that, we're here for a purpose. Don't just look at the bottom of that settlement statement or look at what we're getting and think that's all they're all about. No, there's a lot that goes into, even when you're listing a home, when when you have the clients that buying a home, there's a lot that goes into it behind the scenes that you'll never know unless you're in it. So, just trying to spin that negative feedback that we get from the media.
And I hope that's what Nakia Wright will spend some effort on. I know she's been trying to right the ship up there, pardon the pun, but she's been trying to right that ship up there because it has been a mess. One of the most effective things the Realtor Association did years ago was some of their commercials. And I really think the problem we have in our industry is a lot of consumers think all we do is list a house, put on an MLS, and that's all you do. There's no other work. They don't forget the whole navigation through the whole process. And as long as the consumer thinks that, they're not willing to make a payment. But those who understand that the closing process starts from I want to list a house all the way through and past closing, I think they recognize the value of the agent. The problem is, like you said, you seem like you're the only profession where the media expects you just to constantly reduce your fees and take less because it's in the consumer's best interest. Well, as I said last week, go to your doctor and say, well, I know I need to have this surgery. I'd like you to do it for half price because it's in my best interest. How magnanimous do you think that doctor is going to be and go, you know what, I'll do the surgery for half price? It doesn't happen. But the media has conditioned everyone to think that real estate agents should, whatever the buyer can pay, that's what we should just reduce our fees to because, it's good for the buyer. Well, it's a full-time job. You guys are working for a living and you have a right to earn your living. And I love your analogy about the person working in the factory. Nobody goes by to the boss and go, well, I know the factory needs the money, so just pay me half of what you're supposed to. I mean, it's absolutely insane. What are you hearing? Because you've been all over this state. You and I talked about this a couple of weeks ago. You have burned up many miles on your car. Probably had to get new tires since this last year. What are you hearing as the mood, the ideas, the thoughts? Where's everybody's mind right now as realtors across the state? Is it positive? Are they still reeling from the settlement? What are you seeing as the mood?
Right now everybody's scared about this government shutdown. Our buyers, they don't know. Everybody's just afraid of what's going to happen. You don't know the next. So a lot of people are standing still because they just don't know what to do, which way to go, which way to look, which way to turn. It's disheartening, but what can we do? Everybody's afraid. But one of the main things is I laugh because at one point we used to hear there's no inventory. There's the lack of
Yeah,
inventory. But
that
now it's
changed.
like there's inventory.
It's never going to change. We're never going to have inventory. It'll take 10 years.
I don't
It
think
took
we're
what,
gonna
10
ever
weeks?
have it just right. Like, when can we get it just right? When there's inventory and interest rates are just perfect and we can all just go into the sunset singing Kumbaya. I don't think
You
it's
know,
ever gonna happen. So,
no, I mean,
you know,
I've been doing this 30 years. I lived through 9/11. We lived through the 2008 crisis change. We lived through COVID. We lived through all kind of stuff. And it's every time this is going to be what breaks real estate. It's done. We're never going, and every single time it's been
we
fine.
get
It comes
through it.
back.
I remember when we had, what was it, 2007, 8, and the market crashed. I remember sitting in my office with a bunch of other realtors and saying, okay, now which one of us is going to apply at Walmart to be a greeter? We were trying to figure out our next move, but then we got through it. So it's the same thing. We're always going to get through it. And as realtors, we definitely know how to make it work. I hate to use the word hustlers, but we definitely are hustlers. We know how to make a dollar
Right.
doing
You have to
something
be an
illegal.
entrepreneur. You have to be a hustler to be a real estate agent. If you don't
Yeah,
like risk, you're going
definitely.
to go work at Walmart,
Yeah,
right?
we do what we have to do to get the job done. So, just like you said, COVID, 9/11, everything else, we've gotten through it. We'll get through this as well.
How do you see the role of the real estate agent slash realtor emerging or changing as the lawsuits kind of settling a little bit, but now you have AI technology is really popping up here. You've got consumer expectations led by the media, as we both agree. Consumer expectations are not necessarily legitimate in some of these cases. Do you see evolving role here, or do you think it's just kind of how it always has been?
It's definitely evolving. Is a tool that if you don't know it, you probably are behind. You're very behind. Not probably, you are very behind because the future is AI, at GPT. That's just what it is. Like I asked you earlier, was this really you on the screen? Because you just don't know anymore.
You don't.
You watch the news, and I don't know if you saw, but like one of the top charting singers is an AI person, is a, what is it, a AI bot or something. So it's crazy. All of these commercials that you're watching these days, are those really you just don't know. So it's the new wave right now. So you really got to catch on. You got to be a part of it. And I know for us, as far as our association, we offer a ton of AI courses wherever we can, whenever we can. We try to make sure that the members see it. Now, whether they do it, it's one of those things where you can lead a horse to water. So the information is there. So we do that often. Of course, nationally, like I said, we're going to the national conference next week in Houston, and we're so excited about that because we'll be there for a week. They'll probably offer within that week, probably an AI course every single day. We have some phenomenal people in real estate that offer courses that you can be a part of online. So the information is out there. So again, we just got to jump on it. When I say we, I mean me as well. So I'm
Me
not
too.
just look, I'm not AI savvy. I'm really not as savvy as I probably should be. You just got to get on it. You got to do it,
Mhm.
whether you want to or not. The thing is, for me, I look at it as doing Facebook, all this Facebook advertising and stuff. When I first got into business over 20 years ago, we didn't have Facebook. I think we probably had
Yeah,
MySpace,
texting
and
when
we
I
could
got into it.
yeah, we probably had MySpace or something. We couldn't put all our houses and stuff on MySpace, or we weren't thinking about doing that. So now that I'm having to force myself to do things that I'm not used to, I'm even having to train my mind to get out of when I first started 20 years ago. This is how we did things. It's just one of those things that you have to keep moving with the times, whether you want to or not. But if you want to be a very successful realtor, you got to move with the times. You got to change. You got to just go with the change. Move with it as
Even
it moves.
Clemson even Clemson University now is offering an AI minor for their marketing majors. My daughter's going to college next year, and one of the places she's looking is Clemson. I said, if you go to Clemson, you need to get this major and minor in AI because AI is going to be completely different in the future. So we definitely need to see, what's going to happen in real estate, practice law. We're seeing it changing. So a lot of people will say that AI is probably the biggest opportunity. Other people look at it as the biggest threat. Are you seeing any other threats? For me, I always think there's always the threats of other lawsuits is always something I'm concerned about. As you know, every time I appear before any group, I usually leave with people loving me and hating me at the same time because, I just tell people the truth. I don't think that it's all rainbows and roses all the time. I do think we have threats from broker to broker comp. I think it's a threat. I think commission steering is a threat. What are you seeing and what are you hearing out there that people are concerned about as either threats or opportunities?
Well, one thing is the broker to broker. That is a threat. And I see that coming down the pipeline. That's definitely something that we may be working on. I'm not going to, say too much,
Mhm.
but we may be working on that because, you know, that may need to go away. One of those things where that could possibly bring another lawsuit. We don't know. But one thing that I am afraid of, like you said, more lawsuits, because where are they coming from? We didn't expect this one to come. When we were working the way we were working before all of this lawsuit stuff, we thought everything was fine. We didn't see the need for change. So you just don't know if there's something else coming around the corner. You just have to be very careful with how you do things for the right now, to make sure that you don't get caught up in the current lawsuit. I try hard not to think about the negative side of things, but how can we not? We got to be prepared. We got to try to figure out, we got to make sure we're staying ahead of the game and make sure we're covering all bases that need to be covered before it comes down this way. That way it won't be as hard as it was because, I will say one thing that Nick did for us was he kept us in the loop of what was coming, what was going on when this lawsuit first started. I remember first talking about it locally here, and everybody looked at me like I had 8 heads. And I'm like, guys, this is serious. This is coming down. And this was probably 6 to 8 months before it actually hit. I remember talking about it to my local association, and, they didn't care, because it wasn't anything that they've heard of. It
No
was like,
fake news.
yeah, it's like they thought I was making something up. There she is, giving us some SCR updates. We don't care. But when it hit, everybody's like, oh, I remember you saying something about it. Yeah, I said a lot about it.
We spent a lot of time on Dish and Dirt talking about it. I remember I had Jeff Wheeler on here, and we spent, I think, 2 or 3 weeks talking about the threat of Sitzer Burnett and the Mueller case, almost a year or so before these things came out. And I kept telling people this is going to be really bad. Now, I'll be honest, I didn't think it was going to be $1.5 billion. Never saw that coming, but I did see some structural changes coming. But you and I've talked about this. I think overall, the lawsuit's bad. Anytime you take $418 million out of a trade organization that's supposed to be helping consumers and realtors, that's bad. But a lot of the changes, the transparency, the more of ability to negotiate your rates between the buyer's agent and seller's agent, I call it the semi decoupling. I think some of that is good. I mentioned that when I was in Florence. And again, you get a lot of people look at you and go, yeah, you're right. And then the old timers look at you and go, well, that's not how I did it 30 years ago. So you're wrong. But I think this gives us a good transition into something I know is going to be important to you is RPAC. This is where RPAC comes in. So what do you wish that more realtors understood about the importance and advocacy of RPAC?
So the fact that a lot of members don't understand, a lot of realtors don't understand, I wonder, are we doing our job? Because, you could not work if it wasn't for RPAC. So there's no reason why, as a realtor, you do not understand how important, RPAC is to your business. But again, it comes in form of getting involved. I learned years ago because again, I had a great broker. My broker was probably Hall of Fame 20 years ago, which is $5,000 level. And he loved to talk about RPAC. I mean, he lived RPAC. So, we try to give them as many events and situations to help them bring it down to a level because everybody doesn't know as much about RPAC as I do or, other members that are involved. So I try to tell them about, the COVID. When we had COVID, South Carolina was able to still sell real estate.
Hmm.
In the best time, it was the worst time, don't get me wrong, because it was COVID, but interest rates were 2 point nothing and you were able to sell real estate. So imagine being in a state that could not. But see, a lot
New
of
York.
people think that all states could sell. So they don't get it. So when you break it down that way, that, Philadelphia, there were states that really could not, in Pennsylvania, I said Philadelphia is not a state, Pennsylvania could not sell real estate. There's different states that could not sell real estate. So imagine having to go get your sign, go get your lockbox, and sit there and you see the news saying the interest rates are 2.2, 2 point nothing, and you can't sell. But being a realtor in South Carolina, guess what? You were able to sell because our governor, who knows that we are the largest trade association in South Carolina, and we have those relationships with not only our governor, but our representatives, and our senators and everybody in Columbia, we were deemed essential and able to work. So just trying to get those situations out and let them know about our win. We have some losses, don't get me wrong, but if you tell them about the wins and how much what they invest in RPAC helps with those wins, I think it gets through to the members a little bit better
Without RPAC, no one is advocating for you. That's
at
the bottom
all.
line. No one's up the Capitol, up at Washington. No one's over at Columbia, lobbying, trying to get things fixed. We're talking about wholesaling. Everybody was mad about wholesaling. The work of SCR got that done. You talk about NV Realty, how they were going out and getting these 30-year, 40-year liens against properties. That was a lot of work by RPAC. When it comes to helping you, that's where the value is. A lot of people say, oh, the value in the Realtors Association is only on their forms. No, it's not just the forms. It's things like RPAC. And
Advocacy.
right, that's it. And I tell people, and I'll let you answer this question. People say, well, I'm not a realtor. Well, first of all, I think you should be. But why do I care if I'm a non-realtor listening to this podcast? What do I care about what Keon's doing? I think this is a prime example.
Yeah, because I mean, seriously, like you just said, nobody, if you're not, and if you don't have anybody advocating for you, then you can't sell real estate. They just don't understand. Years ago they were talking about taxing our commission checks. There's just so many different things that, again, if you're not involved, that you don't understand that we do when you're involved. And RPAC is definitely my baby, one of my babies. I was inducted this year as a Hall of Famer, like I said, the $25,000 level. And no, I did not cut a check for $25,000 over my time period as a realtor. I invested, and I got to that $25,000 mark. So I was able to walk across the stage in DC in May. My name will be on a plaque on the wall in our building. And I mean, that's a big thing. And if you're, if you're an involved realtor, you know how big that is. You know how huge that is. And you know how big RPAC is to our profession. I had one of my agents actually ask me, about RPAC. And you know what I told her? I can tell you all day long, but let me show you where the sausage is made. So we got in our car and we drove to Columbia, and we actually got to sit in and listen. And it wasn't just realtor issues that they talked about. It was a lot of different bills that came up and issues that they talked about. But I feel like that day alone made her understand the importance of RPAC. She got to meet, our delegates and everybody. We were with our lobbyists, Lindsay and Austin, and they introduced her to stuff and they broke things down to her to make her understand why we were there and why they do what they do. So again, I feel like that day changed her mindset of what RPAC does for her business as well.
No doubt. As your year comes to an end here in about a month or so, our next president of SCR, Corin Malay, and I don't know if y'all know him, but I've only seen him one time in Charleston at the legal conference. And I have to say, Corin may wind up being the funniest leader we've ever had at SCR. The guy is an absolute hoot.
He is
He's
very
funny.
funny.
Got a great personality. What lessons would you pass on to Corin as he gets ready to take over leadership?
Just be yourself. Sometimes people can overthink the leadership role, but just be yourself. You've seen me on stage before. You've seen me speaking to our members. I'm going to always be Keon. I don't know how to show up as anyone else. So as
You are
long
very
as you come, so as long as you come and you be yourself, be your authentic self, the members will definitely relate to you. And I talk to Corin a lot. I call him my brother. So I talk to him a lot. We've been on this leadership journey together for a very long time. People may not know it. We actually ran against each other for secretary, where it all started from. And, the night before our interviews, we both said, you know what, we made a pact. And this is what you need. You need somebody to always have your back. We made a pact that, hey, if you get it, I'm proud of you, but make sure you bring me along. And if I get it, I'll do the same. And that's what we've done. So again, I'm president this year. He's coming right behind me. He's president-elect, and he's going to have a great year. So when I'm past president and he's president, he knows that I'll always have his back, and I'm still going to support him for whatever he, when and wherever he needs me to be.
So what's next for you professionally, personally? I know you probably want to reconnect with your family a little bit more after being
Yeah, I
on the
need to
road.
get to know them a little bit better. I need to find out where my kids are and everything in their life, what's going on. But no, I don't know. I've been doing I'm on some committees for NAR. I'm still an NAR director. I don't know. I love to say 2025 Keon doesn't want to do something, but I don't know what 2030 Keon has in store. So I don't know. Just stay tuned and we'll see.
I think a lot of great things will be coming from 2025 through 2030 for Keon. Even if you don't know what yet, something's good is going to happen. And I know you'll be busy in the market selling a lot of houses next year. What message would you like to leave the realtors across South Carolina with as they head into this new year?
So just make sure that you're positive, stay focused. Everything happens for a reason, but when it's meant for you, it's for you. So don't let anybody discriminate you from doing what you were meant to do. It's going to be a
Fantastic.
great
Well,
year.
I feel like
2026, I'm calling it. It's going to be a great year.
Yeah, I think so too. And I think you've done a remarkable job. I'd be remiss to at least mention that you were the first African-American president of SCR. So it's a great milestone, and you'll always go down in history for that. That will never be ever taken away from you. You'll always have that by your name. So that's also something very exciting for the community as well. But I've really enjoyed getting to know you. I didn't know you at all until I met you at Christmas last year when you were installed. And I said, who is this Keon? I don't know her because we don't have an office in Florence yet. And they said, you got to get to know her. She's one of the brightest upcoming people that is really a rising star. And they said she's as genuine and authentic. What you see is what you get. And I have to admit that. And I've enjoyed getting to know you over the year. And luckily, I'm sure we'll continue to see you throughout the year. And
Oh,
hopefully
yeah,
we'll have an office in
definitely.
Florence.
Well, I heard that you don't have an office in Florence. I heard that yet.
Yeah, it was the key. Yeah, it's the key. We'll be looking at that way very soon. That's right. That's key word. You're very perceptive there. So we'll be coming your way soon.
Yes. Sounds
But
good. Well,
Keon,
I look forward to it.
I really appreciate not only you being on Dish and Dirt today, but more, I appreciate all the service because it's, when politicians talk about service, I'm like, they're not serving anybody. You truly are serving. It's a complete volunteer job. You took time away from your family, from your business, from your church, from your life to give it to the association. And you've done an excellent job. So thank you on behalf of everybody in real estate, South Carolina. Thank you so much for that.
Well, thank you so much. And look, let your viewers know that we're taking reviews. So if you like this interview, maybe you need to let Gary know he needs a co-host.
There you
Dish and
go.
Dirt with Gary and Keon, huh?
Dish and Dirt with Gary and Keon. That's got a nice little ring to it.
I think
Well, guys,
so.
I like it. Well, guys, that's all the time we have for our show today. I really appreciate Keon being with us and hope that you'll come back again next week for another episode of Dish and Dirt. Don't forget to tell all the other agents in your office about our show, like and subscribe, but most importantly, come back again next week. Y'all have a great weekend.